And we're live. We're back with a very, very, very early 2015 fantasy football preview. We couldn't stay away. We know the Super Bowl's done and behind us, and the 2014 season's officially over, but that doesn't mean we're going away anytime soon. So you're stuck with us for another week.
And then we're going away.
Never. So, yeah, looking ahead to 2015. But before we get there, let's take one quick little look back to the week that was and what happened out there in Arizona, in the little matchup between Seattle and New England, how that went down. Since this is a fantasy show, I want to keep the real football coverage a little light. So just very briefly, was it the worst call in history? And you all know what we're talking about, the interception at the end of the game.
Here's
play.
a quick thing I'll say about that is, like, it's a terrible call, and everybody knows it's a terrible call. But it seems slightly less terrible because it was Seattle and they had just won a Super Bowl. Like, imagine if that were the Buffalo Bills, or imagine if that were the Philadelphia Eagles, and that, like, those cities would burn. Yeah. They would burn to the ground. Like, it seems a lot like, oh, well, they were there last year, so, like, it was a terrible call, but, like, that's it. I mean, that's where it ends.
Yeah.
Can I step on that a little bit more? And that they shouldn't even have been there. I mean, it was like the flukiest, craziest, bobbling catch, and then all of a sudden you're down on the 4-yard line, and then furthermore the half-yard line. So, like, yeah, it was a bad call, but, like, as far as, like, being the worst in history, definitely not.
No, and it's magnified because it's the Super Bowl. I mean, worst call in Super Bowl history? I mean, possibly. I haven't seen every Super Bowl, so I'm not sure.
I mean, the one thing that you could say is a million things could happen, yes, but they could have ran the ball like 2 more times, got stuffed with Marshawn Lynch, and then everyone's like, oh, why didn't you pass it? Of course, everybody knew that they were going to run it. I mean, they have Marshawn Lynch, of course. You should have just passed it, a quick pass. I know I'm guilty for doing that, like almost second-guessing every single call the Steelers make, so.
I do. Another thing I'll say is I do hate the explanation from Pete Carroll. Like, that was a throwaway play. We were just going to give that play away and then run the next play. Like, there were 20 seconds left in the Super Bowl. Like, giving away plays. This thing.
All right. That play affected me deeply. I've done some serious. 2 other people here watched me watch that play, and it was pretty tough. But I've done some soul searching, and I've come around to it a little. It's definitely not the worst call in history, and I won't even call it a bad call. It's obviously not a good call. It's suboptimal. But I did a little research because I figured we would talk about this. And I will present you with the play index for Super Bowl 47, San Francisco at Baltimore, or versus Baltimore. We all know Baltimore won, but late in the game, the final score was 34-31. Or, I'm sorry, it was 34-31. That was Emmanuel safety. The last drive of the game, it was 34-29. San Francisco's driving. Right before the 2-minute warning, they get a 33-yard by Frank Gore, who's not as good as Lynch, but prime Frank Gore was pretty good. And San Francisco was a power running team. So what happened was it was 1st and goal on Baltimore 7. They had 2 timeouts, and the 2-minute warning had passed. First play, I'm looking it up again, they use Michael James, their backup running back, right guard for 2 yards. So it's 2nd goal on Baltimore's 5-yard line. Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
2 timeouts left.
Yes.
Down by 5. You want to take a wild guess what they do on their second play, 2nd and 5?
Pass.
They throw the ball. Then they throw it on 3rd down, and then they throw it on 4th down, and they lose. Now, I'm not saying that's good either, but Jim Harbaugh, we can agree he's a better coach than Pete Carroll.
I don't know.
Yeah, or at least comparable, if you're not willing to be
comparable.
Yeah, comparable. Sure, I'll say that.
He tends to know what he's doing, and he did the same thing too. So there's 2 explanations.
Jim.
One is everyone panics like late in the Super Bowl, and no one knows how to run a goal line offense, which is possible. And 2 is like Carroll isn't the only coach that would have done this, because we see other coaches have done it before. It's a legitimate option. It's not like the best thing you can do, but it's been done. And it's not like Carroll's some renegade coach that said, I want to make a name for myself. I'm going to throw my way to the Super Bowl. It's an
Totally
option.
fair.
The play call itself wasn't great, but did anybody see that still frame of like what Wilson saw at the time he threw
Yeah.
the ball?
Yeah,
it's a-
wide
it was-
open.
That looked pretty damn open.
Yes.
And I know Ricardo Lockett is no like Golden Tate or anything, but you have a one-on-one matchup against New England's like fifth-string cornerback who was
Yes.
terrible the whole game.
Yeah.
And it's a snap throw. It looks open. Whoops.
It's the
So it's
problem.
not great, and there's no guarantee they get in with Lynch either. Everyone knows they're running it. Now they should do a play-action fake and like throw a fade or something because you can't intercept a fade. But
Yeah.
Fade or
Yeah,
even Wilson at that point could have tucked it and I'm sure gotten into the end zone.
Sure.
I mean,
Crazy. So many options.
but
So
Belichick screwed up too. He didn't call timeout. Like that gets forgotten. Like it was just a mad scramble.
Yeah.
And
it's
I
really
think you get to. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I think you get to a point where like anything can go. Like it's pure chaos. Like time's ticking down in the Super Bowl. It's like a couple yards away.
Yeah.
Stuff happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
definitely.
it's a shame though that we're talking about like how bad of a call or good of a call it was, and not how amazing of a play it was. I mean,
Yes.
for undrafted, when he was a rookie
Yeah,
corner,
undrafted rookie free
like you
agent.
said, playing like a terrible in the Super Bowl to jump a route to see it to make a game-winning play. I mean, for the Super Bowl, that's just amazing. Like that's one of the most clutch moments, other than maybe the Harrison pick six at the end of the half. Because I don't know if you guys remember that or not, but I mean, we were getting destroyed by the Cardinals, and that completely changed the
Changed it going
momentum.
into the locker room.
Yep. You
So-
take that play away, you guys don't win that Super Bowl. I guess you could say the same thing as the Butler pick. So
Yeah.
they're equally. I mean,
Right.
And
they sealed the game. Both
Yeah.
of
That's
them.
the frustrating thing. Like a player just executed. There weren't great coaching decisions on either side, but I mean, Russell Wilson didn't lose that game for them because they had the
Right.
game won.
Right.
Kirk dropped like a catchable deep ball on like the possession before like the Patriots started scoring. Butler committed a really bad, like a really sneaky pass interference on Lockett. Another
Yeah.
drive when they're going to get big chunky yardage on third down. So
Yep.
that was just battle around.
The last thing that will be said on the Super Bowl is that, Seth, you mentioned the Cardinals and Steelers. That was the last time I correctly predicted the score, and I did. I was like half there this time. I got the 28-24, but I got it to the wrong team. And one reason, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and this is the reason I hate that play call. I'm sure this happened to plenty of people, with that result, but the pick ended up screwing over my square. I had the 1 and 8 in my square pool, and the touchdown. If that touchdown got in, that was a nice payout for me there. But
No way, really?
yeah, so I got
Oh
screwed
my
by the
gosh.
pick. I was so confident. I was a cocky little bitch. Oh my God, this final score is mine. Bring in the money. I was doing Johnny.
Can you disclose how much?
It
Can
did
you
not-
disclose how much it was?
It was over $100. So
Oh, that's nice.
nothing crazy. It was like $2 a square for 100 squares, and
So what you're saying is you had a worse night than the Seahawks did.
I did. Seattle fans, I'm with you, if not in worse shape than some of you are. So crazy. Well, that's it. That was far too much regular football. It's time to
And who cares
dive
about the
in.
Super Bowl?
I know. Forget the Super Bowl. That's so last week. Yeah. So fantasy football 2015. We're doing our very early preview of next year's draft. And last year, if you watched this edition of this show, you'll kind of remember that we each ran through our list of top 10. Some of us had some better looking lists than others. Some
You have them?
people listed a lot of quarterbacks in their top 10, and that,
Do you have
some
the
people-
drafts?
Some people learned their lesson. Do I have the drafts from last year?
No. Do you? I'll pull them up. I'm actually
They're on
curious.
my website, fullycoveredsports.com, right there that you can see. Go there.
It's a cheap plug for you, so it's a win-win.
Yeah, it is. So, Mark, while you're pulling those up, basically how this is going to work this year, we're doing it a little differently. Last year, each person ran through their 10 picks, 10 through 1, and went person by person. This year, we're going to run through this year. Well, first of all, we extended it to 12 because we know a lot of you guys do 12 person leagues, so you'll have like 12 people per round. So we'll do a top 12, and we're going to run through them backwards, each naming off our 12th pick and then 11th pick, and go that way until we all can finally reveal our number 1 overalls. And I think it's safe to say there will be no quarterbacks in the first round this year. I could be wrong. I don't know. But at least from my perspective, just to give a little foreshadowing, I learned my lesson very well, and there will be 0 quarterbacks in the first round this year. So there's that. Mark, how you doing?
I'm working on that. There's so much content on the site. I can't get through it all.
If you go up to the NFL tab, there's a fantasy football tab, and that should be an easier way to scroll through. But or if you want to search, there's search functionality on the site. But in the meantime,
Rob, do you mind if I just point out, because coincidentally enough, this occurred in our preview show last year. Max Parker, do you have anything to say?
I apologize. I did make a quick.
It was a private one, but I mean, I want all of our fans out there to know the truth. So please continue.
It's true. Yes, I agreed to a $50 bet, and then later there was another. Well, it depends. There was a put it on the board, like an agreed upon second bet. But yeah, there was definitely a bet on. What was it again? It was
Forte over Lacey.
Forte over Lacey. Yeah.
And Rodgers over Manning, because I correctly predicted the doom of Peyton Manning.
No, there was another one towards the end, which was Rodgers versus Breeze. Yeah, you thought Breeze would have a better year.
Breeze than Manning, correct?
No, Breeze and Rodgers.
You picked Rodgers?
No, yeah, I picked Rodgers.
Oh, okay.
I picked Breeze.
Craziness.
Yeah.
Mark, did you happen to?
Still trying to find it.
I have it. NFL Fantasy Football Preview Draft. This is us.
You have it.
So,
I have it.
well,
So,
you have it. Okay.
do you want me to screen share and show you what this looks like?
Yes.
I almost don't want to because it's kind of really embarrassing.
Hey, who do you have second overall? It can't be much worse.
Who do I have second overall?
Yeah.
Well, Peyton Manning.
Better than mine.
Oh, yeah, that's true. All right. Well, let's do this. I'll screen share. And this, just so everyone knows, it's a little zoomed out, but we'll work on it.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there you go. You'll see.
Oh, yeah.
You'll take a look. We have one suspended player on 2 draft boards. He didn't play. Well,
Can you pin the screen so it's like the focus thing?
Oh man.
What's up?
Or because every time we talk, it like bounces off of. Oh,
Stinks. Actually, most of these stink. None of these guys are even. Not one of these guys is in my first round for this year.
Half of my board is made up of quarterbacks.
I don't have one on any of these. No, I lie. I see one name that made the cut this year. Oh, 2.
Well, I'll be.
I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 returning players.
I have 3 out of all 4 lists. I have 3.
Drew Brees first.
Crazy.
Ooh.
I know. Isn't that bad?
That's bad.
That's bad. That's what happened. That's what happens when you want to be, unconventional and try to, shake things up in the fantasy world. Just don't do it. Just
and having Nick Foles on there at all is
and having Nick
awesome.
Foles on the list. Yeah. Oh man. That's probably, I'm telling you, the fantasy gods smited me, and that's why I was the top scoring team, but didn't make the playoffs and had a fun year of fantasy football. So I learned my lesson, and that won't happen again. So that's for sure.
So you want to draft a good team?
What's up?
Nothing. As I say, you want to draft the highest scoring team again?
Yeah, let's do it. let's try. So. All right, well, who wants to start it off with their number 12?
I'll get it going. Because I want to pay tribute to some of my fallen comrades that weren't quite good enough to make the cut. 3 honorable mentions in descending order.
Honorable mentions.
One that hurt a lot because, as you're going to see as this list progresses, I fetishize running backs a lot. And Jeremy Hill, I do love you, but not good enough to make the top 12.
Oh.
But I will be drafting him anyway. And on not to the real cuts because he was never in the first round.
Mark,
anyway.
I don't think you will be drafting him. Let me just tell you that.
Number 14, I guess. Marshawn Lynch did not make the cut.
I have, yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Axenham, he would be
Close
on the
to
list. I don't trust his future. I don't know what his contract situation is. And
Agreed.
he's gonna break down eventually. And now the controversial unlucky number 13, and one that's gonna. I think I'm the only person that did this. Rob Gronkowski, cut from the top.
Madness. That's madness.
I don't necessarily disagree with that just because of tight ends, but
We can talk about it later, but the short justification is 3 years ago he had 17 touchdown receptions and 1,300 yards, and he didn't crack the top 10 of any mock draft. So why am I supposed to put him in the top 10 or the top 12 this year? Like, what's changed?
Coming off.
But that's all for that. On
Get
to the
to your list.
Yeah, now start
right.
it for real.
I'll
Let's
be
go.
quick. C.J. Anderson.
All right.
C.J. Anderson.
Jay Anderson.
That's not so bad, but that's
The
some
Kubiak
terrible
effect.
value because he will drop below the first round.
But
for
this is
most
a big
drafts.
this is a big board. If I had all things equal.
It is. And you know what? Before anyone else goes, I'll just second that motion and say that I had C.J. Anderson at number 12.
Wow,
So
guys.
I was
I
not
love
expecting that.
I love the momentum. You look at his last minus 2 games on the road last year, San Diego and Cincinnati, and from weeks 12 through 17, they're the only 2 games that he didn't go over 20 points and didn't have it. He had 1 touchdown in the Cincinnati game. He only didn't score twice down the stretch.
But it's a small sample size.
Yeah, nobody.
Sure, it's a small
heard of
sample
C.J.
size, but what else are they going to do? I don't see, I see him having taken the starting job.
A
2
new coach.
words. Kubiak effect.
Yeah, look Kubiak loved Foster.
It's because Foster
He was a running guy.
Yeah, I know. Did you see what Foster
Into an area in Foster. So that's
Oh, my.
You don't have to defend anything, Rob. It's a good
that's all
pick.
right. I know.
All
I know what
right,
I'm
all
doing.
If anyone wants to take it right here, right now, I will take Jeremy Hill over C.J. Anderson next
Put it
year.
on the board.
I won't take that bet because I was
Come
so
on.
close to putting Hill in there. So
Give me-
close.
I'll take it. Jeremy Hill's
No, I agree with you.
Animal. Since I don't think. I mean, obviously, other people have had a better second half of the season. But I mean, if I read you Jeremy Hill's numbers the second half of the season, not just talking about points scored, but overall rushing yards, he had like 2 games in which he was under 100 yards. And if you extrapolate that out, I mean, that's even after Giovanni Bernard got healthy again. I think that's his backfield now going into next year. You have got a coach who you know what to expect, and you got. Sorry. I'll talk more about it whenever I actually.
Oh, you don't have yet. All right.
So he's not your 12. So who's your 12?
He's on my 12. My 12 is Jordy Nelson. Every year I just discredit him, and I don't think that he's very good, and I just don't draft him. And then every year he puts up insane numbers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come back healthy. They've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder the way they finish things. I think Green Bay's going to be a really good team next year. So.
All right, Max.
I think you undersold him, but we'll get to that later. Number 12 is pretty close to where Mark had him at 14. Marshawn Lynch. I can't put him higher than that because he's getting up there, and we seem to say that every year, and one of these years it's going to be true. 29 now, will be 30 by next year. I'm guessing, I don't know when his birthday is, but so he'll be 30. Like, I don't know how much trust I can put in a running back at 30. But this year he had 5 games over 20 fantasy points, so he's got to be in there somewhere. So I put him at 12.
All right. So that moves us to number 11.
Okay, so picking off where I was about 3 minutes ago, Jeremy Hill has had ridiculous stats. I'll try to look him up real quick, but
I
like
got
I
his
said,
numbers. You want them?
yeah, go ahead.
What do you want? Like just
So out of the from week 9 to week 17, he had 4 games. So I lied a little bit, but he had 4 games where he was under 100 yards, but he also had 154, 152. I mean, he was for every game he had under 100 yards, he also had one more game that he had over or around 150 yards. Touchdowns are there. I think that he's well liked and well respected by the staff. Giovanni Bernard is a good change of pace back, but Jeremy Hill is going to take the bulk of the load, and I think that the Bengals are, the Bengals are the Bengals. They're going to win a decent bit of games during the season, and they're going to get eliminated in the playoffs. That's what the Bengals do. So I really like Jeremy Hill for next year.
I was so close to agreeing with you, but that last thing's the thing that swayed me. Because
That they're the Bengals?
I had Anderson and Hill pretty close together, but like the tiebreaker was Kubiak versus Lewis. Like Kubiak isn't like Vince Lombardi or anything, but I think he's a little better than Marvin Lewis, and I just don't trust Marvin Lewis to like do the right thing. And Bernard might like get hot and take some of that back, and I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair. Mark, you want to go with your 11?
Yeah, let's see who I picked. Okay, Andrew Luck.
Sure.
All right.
I've sung his praises for long enough. No need to explain further.
So I'm pretty sure I thought that was low for you. I knew it would be on your list. I just didn't know where. That's kind of low.
I got another pick coming up. I'll explain why I did that.
All right.
Down
That's
the
fair.
road.
Okay.
11. I battled. I only wanted to put one. Call me crazy. One wide receiver in my top 12.
What?
Yeah. I know. I know.
No, you're smart. This is smart.
I know. And I struggled with which one to do it with. I really struggled with which one. Seth, it was a toss-up between year 12 and this guy who, I don't know if it was maybe just because of the strong boot that I saw him put on a punter earlier in the year.
Oh my gosh.
Or I don't know. He's a speed threat. He reminds me of a Deshaun almost. But he actually has a quarterback. But he actually has a quarterback that's able to get him the ball downfield with like a cannon of an arm. So Antonio Brown came in at number 11 for me.
Oh boy.
We'll be seeing him later.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like we're getting a little bit of slate here. That's insane.
The number one wide receiver for fantasy comes in at number 11.
How often do you see a number one wide receiver repeat the following year? That's the only concern I have.
Well,
I'm sure he'll do well. I'm sure he'll do well, but
it's not like he has an injury risk. It's not like he's like constantly out. He doesn't have like an off the field issue that's gonna suspend him for the whole season.
He has a lack of serious depth at the position at the rest of the roster that I think is going to constitute some double teams next year.
That's
a
not
lack
true.
of depth.
That is
like one of the
completely
best
false.
Yeah,
this is completely false.
I don't like them. So that's, that's
the thing is
Brian
Brian was a stud.
I don't know what he has to do to prove that he's like he made me. I doubted him last year. Don't get me wrong, Rob. I was on that same boat last year, but now he has like a record. I don't even know how many straight games with 5 or more catches.
Yeah.
He's just getting. Even if they're losing, they're making sure that he gets catches.
Right.
For fantasy, what else do you want in a wide receiver?
1,700 yards. 1,700 yards.
It's not going to get repeated. That's why he falls a little bit.
You had me in the hook.
He's in the top 12. That's value. That's valuable.
I think it's defensible to put him that low. So you had me on the hook, and then your explanation completely lost.
My explanation was like a slap across the face, which is completely understandable, but
The terrible wide receiver.
Not rooted in fact in any way.
All right, that's fair.
Right.
That's your opinion.
Let me ask you: is he your highest ranked wide receiver?
He's the only wide receiver.
He's my only wide
I thought
receiver.
he said he put Jordy Nelson on the.
No,
okay.
I was taught it was a coin flip between him and Jordy. So
Okay.
Coin flip. Flipping coin.
That's how you provide fantasy.
Let's get off the schneid. And Max, I think you have an 11 to throw up.
I do. My 11 is Matt Forte. He did well this year, had a strong year, but it was mostly comprised of yards. He only had 6 touchdowns, which is really pathetic for a first rounder. So he's right at the tail end of the first round. 6 touchdowns. I mean, that's bad.
I think that's more of a product of the Bears just being absolutely dreadful.
And I think you got to watch out for that next year too. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Fair enough.
Interesting. All right, so number 10. I'll go. I want to be the first one to throw out this name and get the reaction.
Oh no, we have the same pick, don't we?
Adrian Peterson.
No.
That's not bad.
Adrian Peterson. He's a guy that
Not
didn't play
bad.
this year.
He's like
I thought about
60 years old.
His future is pretty much it's a question mark right now. I mean, it's really unclear what the Vikings are going to do. I haven't heard necessarily anything whether they're going to cut him, they're going to keep him.
You're talking about a first-round pick, man.
No,
I know.
Wait. Yeah,
I
that's
know,
well,
but-
that's true.
All those questions. This is your first-round
There's all
pick.
those questions, but
This
you're
is true.
telling me no one's going to pick him up. He's not as controversial. I know what he did is terrible and everything. The people in Minnesota.
Then why are you
defending
picking
him?
How
It's
is
not
this
to
not your top 10?
the extent of Ray Rice, in my opinion. That where if Minnesota does cut him, I see teams chomping at the bit to get Adrian Peterson on their
Dallas.
roster. Because God knows what's going to happen with Murray. So it's a possibility that someone's going to need an Adrian Peterson. And
Rob,
Do you really want those questions in your top 10?
No, yeah, I think he's
That's-
gonna have a strong year, but I don't think he's I don't think he's first round material. But I think he's gonna have a strong year. A whole year off. He was a hard worker, so he's gonna be still in great
he's
shape.
coming back. He's going to come back with quite the chip. He's going to be pissed.
He's
Rob,
gonna
I think if this is if you're doing like a real life mock draft and not just like your personal preferences, I think you're actually underselling him. I think he settles like 5th overall in most mocks.
I agree. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if you look at Barry, Matthew Barry had him
Like 6th, I think, or something, 6th or 7th.
I think he goes second.
He had 6.
Second overall?
No, second
Yeah.
round.
Okay.
No. Oh yeah. The only reason I didn't put him there
No.
is I see the warning signs though. Like he seemed like he was starting to slow down a little bit even before.
Yeah,
the
but then he
real
got a
incident.
year off. But then he got a
did-
year off.
Yeah, but he's
It
old.
looked like he was slowing
Is that
down. He was like
true?
on all 4 of our lists last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was last year, and I was already he was 7th on mine last year. I got to bump him down some more.
No.
I
Now you can't even factor in age now because he's had a whole year off. The only reason
His body's getting older. You don't stop Father Time when you're
No, no,
sitting.
no, no.
Yeah, I
The only
know.
reason running backs decline so quickly is because they get beaten up so severely in the
Still,
league.
he's still working out
because
though.
they
He's
get-
like
yeah,
dragging
it's
his
'cause they
tire up
get
the hill and
old.
stuff.
Yeah, but he doesn't have like tons of weight coming down on top of him and like potentially breaking bones and
It's
stuff.
because of the NFL. It's because of their profession. It's because of football. It's why they decline so severely, not
Right.
because of age.
It's also because of age. I mean, there's studies that show when males are in their peak,
And
whenever
that's
they have,
29.
and how old's he?
And most running backs,
Like
most
32.
running backs hit the wall well before that.
In running back years, 30 is the dreaded number in which you turn. They've done all kinds of studies that say after 30, running backs tend to decline significantly. How old's he?
I'm looking it up.
Thank you.
I wish I had it ready for you. That really would have made a good point.
Yeah.
He's older than I am. Oh, he's 29. He's
Yeah.
gonna be no. He's gonna be 30 in March.
Exactly. 30
But
and March.
Minus a year of football.
in my
Alright.
senior football.
Here's his stats from 2003. At age 28, he played 14 games. He had 1,266 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns, 4.5 yards per carry. That's decent. That's not like high. And that's 2 years ago. Like, I don't see.
I mean, he was
how
coming off. He came off an injury, not last season, but the season before that.
No, the season before that, he ran for 2,000 yards.
When did he come off an injury?
The year before that.
He blew his knee out in 2011, and then
Yeah.
2012 he rushed for 2,000, and 2013. So like the numbers were dipping down a little, and that was 2 years ago. And who knows?
Yeah.
That's a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
And he
I'm
might be on
just-
a different. He might be on a different team too.
I'm just saying.
He might not have Matt Castle to hand him the ball.
do you really, for your number 10th pick, if you're sitting there at number 10, do you really want to hinge your entire future on somebody that
Right now, right
with that
today,
record?
today,
Yeah.
no. Come August, maybe.
Okay.
I wouldn't, but I think he keeps going up. I think if he gets on a good team or something, he could go way up the board.
Yep.
If he goes to like New England or something like that, which who knows?
If he went
That
to
would
New
be-
England, that would be crazy.
More reason to
Yeah.
hate.
Ooh.
All right.
And,
All right.
like that's something they could do. You never know. Like,
Yes, for sure.
sneaky like that.
For sure.
All right, let's move on to other number 10s.
All right. I picked Demaryius Thomas, number 10. Peyton. That hinges on Peyton coming back, which I think he will. Demaryius Thomas is the number 1 receiver in Denver, and Peyton throwing the ball. I think he's got a good chance of being another top receiver next year. He had 11 touchdowns last year, so pretty good.
Good stuff.
It's a good pick. I disagree slightly on the numbering, but that's just about right.
What do you
Okay.
have, Mark?
ODB.
Oh,
Odell
Oh,
Beckham
alright.
Jr.
I disagree with you there.
Old dirty bastard.
Wait, I said
You
OBJ.
undersold him.
Oops. Damn it. I had all year to prepare for that. He's higher than he probably should be, but I can't say no to those kind of receivers.
Higher than he
Higher
probably
or
should.
higher, like number or
Yeah.
like.
Like in real life, he'll go mid-second round.
Yeah.
Oh! I have him way higher. Way
Oh,
higher.
no. Ooh.
Yeah, that
Okay.
makes
This
sense.
is
I don't want to
Alright.
ruin boards here.
All right, yeah. Let's not ruin boards. All
I'll
right.
just say that the reason why I thought I was ranking him high, like that talent just shoots off the screen and right into your face. Like he might not be the best player, but you want to own him.
You
And
do.
he won me a lot of money.
I'll vouch. He was incredible to have on the team. So
All right. Well, I thought I was being
Wow.
controversial, but apparently I'm a pansy.
Yeah, it's insane. I swear people are just trying to throw out the stuff there for as Rob likes to say, clickbait or something like that. View bait here. Oh yeah, we have Adrian Peterson in our top 10. We're crazy. That's not how you win championships. Ask Mark. Oh wait, no, Mark's the one that made that. No, so I got the luck of the Andrew at number 10. Andrew Luck. I mean, what did you say? Instead of luck of the Irish, this would be luck of the Andrew.
I got it.
we
I
got it. We all got it.
That was a pretty good impression, if you ask me. I have a little bit of experience playing an Irish person back
one will
in
get
the
that joke.
college days.
No one will get the
No one gets it.
All right, so hey, we have a very heavy former Duquesne alum audience. Okay, that was for all them out there. But
All right.
Andrew
Hi,
Luck,
Pat and Brad and
Dan
Pat
Dar-
and Brad.
Anyway, Andrew Luck, everything I predicted last year, pretty much came true. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and I think, sky's the limit for him. So
I like how you just like casually threw that in, like everything I predicted. Just it happened.
I mean, I gave you guys stats. I can be correct again. I don't mind. I'll go back and watch again. Tell you about my Andrew Luck love. I predicted him to be the third best quarterback this year. And what was he? Hold on, I'll check. Good.
All right. While he's doing that, Max, let's get your 10.
Number 10.
You already got it, right?
Oh, yeah, you already got it. Demaryius.
Oh yeah.
Moving on the line.
All right. Moving on up then. Who wants to take 9?
I'll take 9. Mr. Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson. He was the number 16 receiver, and he only played 13 games. He's far and away the number 1 receiver still in Detroit. I like Detroit next year as a team, and I think he has another great. I mean, he's been Mr. Consistency for fantasy purposes the last years, and I don't think next year will change that.
All right. Well, my number 9 is my last non-running back on the list.
Ooh.
And we are going with the tight end out of New England, and Rob Gronkowski.
First Gronk sighting.
First Gronk sighting, number 9.
Only Gronk sighting?
So
Biggest one?
it's boring.
Nope.
Boring. I don't know. He's like I know there's Jimmy Graham, but he's the one tight end that in that system it's all dink and dunk. He's gonna get 5, 6, 7, 8 touches a game. It seems like every week, and at least I'll look every red zone trip. So he's the beast of tight ends. So I just like that.
Can we argue about this now, or do you want to save it for later on when he goes even higher?
Let's save it for later on when he goes higher, because I think that's as high as I would go on a tight end.
Okay.
Max, just so you know, Calvin Johnson, 16th best wide receiver last year. You don't think he's slipping a little bit?
Do you not listen to me? I said that exact thing when I was saying why I picked him.
Oh, okay.
He was the 16th wide receiver in 13 games.
You literally said that.
You said
Wow.
I heard him say 14 games.
No, 13.
Second best receiver on his team last year.
I don't know. Is that good though to be 16th best wide receiver?
Well, he was hurt.
13
He missed
games?
a lot of time.
Yeah, he missed time because he missed time. Yeah.
So how many?
Like the other wide receivers I have up there played full seasons.
So how many games did he miss? 4 games.
3.
He missed 3 games,
3 games.
and you think that would have launched him from 16 to
I think
number
it may have gotten him in
1?
the top 10.
This?
He was also gimpy too, and so it's,
Okay,
it's
fair enough. Fair enough.
questionable.
Fair enough. I'm not gonna question you more about it. All right. What number are we? Number not
9.
Arian Foster.
Ooh.
I was a little bit skeptical about a new coach last year, but I think Rob could attest. Other than injury, he pretty much delivered spectacularly.
Yeah, that's the only thing that held him back
this
all
year.
year. It's always the thing that holds Arian Foster back.
Arian Foster, yeah.
But if he didn't have an injury, he would have been right there with DeMarco in terms of 100-yard games. He had a nice streak going to start the season, upwards of 9 or 10 100 straight 100-yard games.
He also missed 3 games last season, but he was the number 5th best running back. So
He was
not 16th.
The thing with him was that he's such a dual threat in that system. He always was, but for whatever reason, last year it just seemed to get taken to another level. And he was catching touchdown passes and going for a decent amount of receiving yards per game on top of what were really great rushing yards as well. So I like that pick. I like
something more to add. Just I don't know. Just to you had both him and Alfred Blue, correct?
Yep. Gotta cuff him.
So whenever you did cuff him, you noticed a dramatic decrease in output.
Yep.
From their backup getting put in.
Yep.
And you would expect that. I mean, the Bengals, they put their backup, Jeremy Hill, in, and he outperformed their starter. So some cases that's not the case. But that's why I feel even more confident with Arian Foster going forward, just because of that, the skill level between the two. Passing, catching, running, everything. So.
Yep. Who's up next at 9?
Matt Forte. Not super excited about this pick, but whatever. He might have a year left. He's been good enough to warrant a first-round pick, and why not again?
Yep.
It's fair. All right. I think that's all 9s.
Yep.
That moves to 8, and I'll piggyback off of you, Seth. I have Arian at my number 8. Partially a little biased because of all the work he did for me last year, but consider this for a second. When he wasn't hurt, he only put up less than 10 points. Less than 10 points in 3 games all year. So I mean, this is a guy. He went for over 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, which also included a 35 points performance against Tennessee. I mean, just always getting touchdowns. 1, 5, 7, 8 rushing. On top of 5 more receiving, so he's going to get his points. Really enjoyed having him. Again, it's always the question about whether he can stay healthy an entire year. He was able, in my opinion, looking at years past compared to this year, maybe it was Bill O'Brien's system, but for whatever reason, he stayed healthier. It seemed like this year he was in there more. Only missed 3-4 games, I think, 3 games because of injury. So I would be fine having him on my roster again. I would not think twice about drafting him.
Nope.
Next.
Just so we don't have to spend a lot of time, Aaron Rodgers, I think he's the best quarterback in football. I expect a lot. I said it already because Jordy Nelson was on the list, but I expect a lot from him next year too. So just continue his just amazingness. So
he's your number 8?
8, yep.
All right.
Highest quarterback on the list.
Yep.
Number 1 quarterback.
All right, I have Demaryius Thomas. I'm starting to regret that, actually, but I almost swapped him right here for Jordy Nelson, like on the fly, as of like 30 seconds ago. But we're going to stay with Demaryius. The rationale for him being on there is like there's so many receivers that are in that tier that they're almost like interchangeable, like Dez Bryant, Jordy Nelson, who didn't stiff my first round, that are mostly comparable. like the allure of Thomas is like his physicality and the fact that he's like safe. And I figured like even when Manning's not there, he'll probably be fine because I thought in my mind like, well, Tebow was there and he had like 1,400 receiving yards when Tebow was there. And I looked it up. He did not have 1,400 yards when Tebow was there. He had like 500 yards when Tebow was there. So, I guess I'm gonna keep him there. If I could do it again, if I could turn back the hands of time to about half an hour ago, I would probably bump him to lower in the first round, but whatever.
You live and you learn, Mark. You live and you learn. Is that it for 8?
I think Max got.
I know. I have to go. T.Y. Hilton, number 8.
I knew it was coming.
That's some
Oh,
bias.
yes.
That's some bias, right?
He's great. No, I've been following him for multiple years now, and this is the first time I got him on my team. So he only played 14 games, and he was the 10th wide receiver overall for fantasy. And I think I know he would have a lot more yards, but he dropped a lot of passes towards the second half of the season, and I think dropped passes in the NFL are more fluky than anything else. Wallace he was known for dropping passes when he played for the Steelers, and he really doesn't drop that many passes for Miami. So T.Y. Hilton, I think he's going to have another excellent year next year. First round.
All right. That moves us to 7. Who's taking it?
All right, no volunteers. I'll go. Antonio Brown. Is that number 7? Antonio Brown.
Disrespectful.
That is disrespectful.
That's wide receiver. Come on, Mark. I expect more from you.
Well, you'll see as this draft continues, I lust heavily after running backs. So 7's about as good as it's going to get for a wide receiver because it is as good as it got for a wide receiver. Number 1 on the board, Antonio Brown. I don't like taking receivers any higher than this, and in reality, I wouldn't like taking a receiver this high, just philosophically. But I do think he's the best of the bunch. He seems fairly safe, which is you never want to have to utter those words. But he seems like the safest receiver. He gets targeted a ton. Obviously, he gets a ton of yardage, and he seems like he's in his prime. And I had a fun tidbit,
Oh boy,
about Antonio Brown. If you can stall for like 30 seconds, I'll pull up the trade. But the draft day trade that brought in Antonio Brown is quite hilarious.
All right.
The trade.
The draft day, because he was a 6th-round pick. I'll talk as I pulled up. I have it ready to go.
All right.
But he won the 6th round, which was a good value in 2010. But they didn't start with that pick. Because he was taken in the 6th round, 195th overall. With Bryant McFadden, they acquired that pick from the Arizona Cardinals in exchange for a 5th-round pick in 2010, number 155 overall. And they used that pick to select John Skelton.
The Skelton era.
Whoops.
And John Skelton haunts the Cardinals even to this day.
That's amazing.
That's
God.
great.
Well, I have a guy that was already discussed at number 7 here. I went with Forte.
He's boring.
He is. He's like, you know,
So
you
boring.
don't think he's gonna. I don't know. He's just there. He does his job. The thing to look out for, obviously, is a new coach, John Fox. What's he gonna do with their scheming and everything there? So I don't know.
He joins a long tradition of boring guys that hang around. Michael Turner to like Frank
Turner, Gore, yes.
Yes.
Who's in the
Like,
next one? It's
like, I don't want him there. But he's there,
Unsexy,
so he's
yet
got
productive.
to
It's
be
fun.
there.
Yeah.
Got to be there.
He's been significantly better than those guys, though. I mean,
Yeah.
Prime Turner was.
Prime Turner was good. Prime Gore was also good.
Remember, there was a time when Michael Turner was called the Burner, and it wasn't like an ironic nickname.
Oh man.
all right. I'll go next, and maybe I just get enamored with playoff football because I remember last year thinking Jamal Charles was, he was a god for what he did in his stretch of the before the playoffs and even in the playoffs. But right here, baby, put him up, put up the X's. Dez Bryant. I mean, the dude's a freak as far as just a physical specimen, but I mean also his ability to catch, which I can't remember if I was if I said he did catch that ball or he didn't. But now I take it back. He definitely did. And anyone that can catch balls like that, whether it's deflated or inflated, whatever, he deserves to be in the top 10, top
But
12.
he might not be at Dallas next year, right?
It's possible. There's a lot of question marks about him, Murray,
Mm-hmm.
that whole thing. So, yeah.
So say he gets traded to Oakland. Do you like him next year?
Oh no. If he's anybody with like a competent quarterback, like even like Andy Dalton-esque talent, which I think Tony Romo's, slightly better than Dalton.
Yes.
That's,
Slightly.
We can agree. Yeah, he's way better than Dalton.
I don't know how many playoff wins does Romo have? Like 3, 2, 1?
One?
One?
No, he has two.
No, two now. Two.
It's 2 now.
Well, how many does Dalton
yeah.
have?
0, but he's
Zero.
been in the playoffs like almost every single year. That's more
Oh,
you can say
awesome.
than
He's played so well, too.
Romo. All right, but anyways, that's my pick.
All right, number 7 for me is, we've heard him already on this cast, is Jordy Nelson.
Ooh, I wasn't expecting that.
Highest.
Number 2 wide receiver overall for fantasy. He only had 6 games without a touchdown, which is pretty decent, and 13 touchdowns overall. That's also very good. Number 7, Jordy Nelson.
All right.
Is he officially the highest on Jordy Nelson next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Nice.
he gets them.
Yep. So, all right. That makes us at number 6 now. I think I'm gonna make some people mad with my number 6, potentially because they think he's low. I'm gonna go with DeMarco Murray at number 6.
You're not far off. You're not far off for me.
Far off. All right. I
I'll
thought
respect that.
That was not what I was expecting you to say.
that's fine.
It's
There was some last minute finagling here, so I tried to make my numbers more reasonable because they were pretty ridiculous. So, but I made some adjustments, and Murray landed at 6 with my adjustments because obviously top running back coming off a ridiculous year, got that rushing crown. But like we were just talking about, there are some question marks with him as far as where he's going to be. I imagine he'll end up still down in Dallas. But there's the other thing, and this is the more important thing to consider, is there's always the factor of health with him, much like there is with Arian Foster and other guys. He had, for whatever reason, just one of the healthiest years in his career.
weird.
And
Yeah.
with the increased workload, like getting twice as large of a workload as he was used to. So I don't know if they continue to do that. I really fear that he goes down with something sooner rather than later next year, which could be. That's why he's down at 6 and not probably higher up on some other people's boards. So
He looked good though. I mean, even towards
He
the end of the year, he was still running fine and
Yeah.
didn't look like it slowed him down at all. So.
all right.
Number 6, I'll go next. Just and I was a huge fan of him last year, and he didn't prove me wrong, and we've already talked about him. Matt Forte, I think he's a really good talent, and hopefully, with John Fox coming in, he'll be able to be used a little bit more. Max said he only had like 6 touchdowns last year, and I think that was just because the team was just a disaster. So I really like him going forward, but he is getting kind of old, so he's going to slip off one of these years, and who knows, maybe Fox brings in another running back to take some time off, or to do a timeshare. So
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
6 for me, the Gronk. The Gronk at number 6.
Uh-oh.
He only had 5 games without a touchdown, and when you say that, like if that were the wide receiver position, well, there are a couple other wide receivers that could take the spot of that said person, but there's no other tight end that can take that place. That is value. There's so much value in Gronkowski that you can't get anywhere at that position. And I had Jimmy Graham this year. I can tell you, he's no Gronk.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. I mean, Jimmy Graham was the Gronk last year. You know what I mean? So going into that draft, everyone was like, Jimmy Graham offers so much talent that you cannot not take him at that position. You'll have such an advantage. And then at the beginning of the season, at least, there was 3 that were putting up the same production as Jimmy Graham: Gronk, Thomas, and Graham. And then towards later in the season, when Thomas got hurt, it was just Gronk. So
Mhm.
to put that much, to put that much weight into a position like that, if it works out, you are going to get a competitive advantage. But if not, then you saw what happens. You're at a disadvantage.
And you also saw, but also a reason for that is because Breeze had a bad year this year, and I'd put more stock in Brady for next year than Breeze.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, the problem is, I obviously disagree a little bit too. If you miss, you pay
You make
Yeah.
big.
furious price. Because
Yeah.
you're paying
Jimmy
top
Graham-
dollar.
Max,
Jimmy
you had the
Graham looked
number
fine, yeah.
one. Max, you had the number one ranked rusher last year, and you got him in like the 3rd round. So I mean, if you didn't have that, your team would have been a disaster.
Jimmy
With-
Graham was fine until he started throwing up zeros.
True.
Yeah.
I mean, but he didn't give you. What I'm saying is, he didn't give you that much of a competitive edge. There was 3 other people that were taken after Jimmy Graham that would have given you just as much value, and you could have gotten them in like the 3rd, 4th round.
Yeah, well,
So-
I'd argue that in fantasy, the majority of first-round picks are busts. It's usually the 2nd and 3rd rounders that get you your points.
Fair
Unless-
enough.
Yeah, I see that.
But
It's
then why would you take? Oh well, okay, fair enough.
You're playing the odds.
Yeah.
it's a gamble. Mark, I think you're left on the 6s.
Okay, Arian Foster. And actually, I switched this. I had him at 4, and I swapped him with somebody that we'll discuss a little later. But I quit him. I saw through his nonsense, and I quit him. I knew he was an injury risk, and I bumped him from the board last year. And there he goes, winning me back. But
I mean,
I
he looked
know,
awesome.
I know I'm being roped in, so I'm trying to mitigate my losses because he will let me down again. Like I had him so high, and then I realized, like, why am I doing this? But
No, I don't.
if he's healthy and he produces like last year, he's worth it. But that's a big if.
Absolutely.
Are
Absolutely.
you the highest on Foster this year, Mark? Anyone else have Foster higher?
I don't have him on there at all.
There you go.
That's a wise man. But Foster's best is delightful. And
It is.
It's amazing.
I want to see more of it. I want a reunion with him.
Yeah,
It was fun.
So,
It was
We're
a fun
gonna try to make it work.
Mm.
we're gonna try to make
I
it
think I
work.
stole him in like the 3rd round this year because no one wanted
Yeah.
to pick him. I mean that worked out great. So
Yeah.
that's what
Running
happens
backs are
with
scarce.
a
That's the
few
thing.
years of injury. It's crazy what'll happen. But yeah. So I think that moves us to 5.
5. I have DeMarco Murray. I had him on my team. He was fantastic. And you got to wonder where he's going to end up, and B, if he's going to have as many touches as he did this year. Those are 2 huge factors to consider. But
Mhm.
he was just pushing 2,000 yards. I mean, averaging 4.7 yards per carry. Pretty great year.
Yeah.
And
When you go up against a Washington and Giants and times a year,
Panthers.
you're gonna have you know those kinds of games on a consistent basis.
padding those numbers. I'll
And
go
you could
next.
say the Eagles, too. You could say the
Oh, I
awesome
did.
places.
I did.
Oh,
I
you
did
said it? I
the
didn't.
poorest Eagles defense. So
Oh, okay.
Eagles rush defense, god awful. Ugh.
I'll go next, and I kind of feel bad that I have him at this position. I mean, he's in my top half, but I mean, for what he did last year, he should be number 1 on everyone's board. Except wide receivers are just not as valuable as running backs, and it's a sad truth that you have to. I mean, because I was even contemplating moving my number 4 and number 5, switching them around, but running backs are just so much more important, and that's Antonio Brown. I mean, I think I've spent enough airtime talking about how great he was and mocking people for what I feel is slights against him. So I'll just shut up.
That's fair.
Brown, number 5.
All right.
You undervalued him.
All right. My 5. I went Eddie Lacy, from Green Bay. Yeah. You know him. On a team that
No one's ready. No one wants to comment on that. All right.
whatever. you know, it's on a team that gets so much talk about the passing offense and Rodgers and Nelson and Cobb and all of them. Lacy might not necessarily put up the rushing yards you want to see, but it's an extension of that passing game where he, still can put up 20 on average. What did he average last year? 20. Well, he averaged 13.5 a game, but he had at least 4 or 5 games over 20 points. So it's a safe bet. He's a featured back in that system, and is going to get his work, and has just, proven to be, I guess, a workhorse there. So and is only going to get better as his time in the league expands. And
exactly, he's he's not a rookie, but he's like a sophomore.
He's only a second year back. So he had his sophomore slump. So.
His prime is way ahead of him, and there's no drop off like other people. Cough, Doug Martin. Cough, that you should be concerned with. I mean, if you look at him in the beginning of the season, his numbers. I know a lot of Lacy fans because a lot of people drafted him really high last year, and his numbers weren't there. But in the second half of the season, getting involved in the offense, learning the offense a lot better, he became an integral part of that team. So I agree with you, but I'm a little bit more favoritism on him. So
that's completely fair. I know I have him a little bit low compared to most probably most people's boards.
Oh boy.
So up next at 5, or is that all?
I got one.
You got one.
Aaron Rodgers, highest ranked QB on the board.
Pretty close.
Wow.
Pretty close.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll justify my pick, even though it was met with universal acclaim. And the rationale behind it is quarterback is surprisingly shallow. Let's say hypothetically Peyton Manning retires. I'm looking at our scoring from last year. The top 5 QB scorers were Aaron Rodgers at number 1, Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, and Russell Wilson at 5. Now, say Manning retires, those top 4. After Rodgers and Luck, which is everyone agrees is the top tier, you're dropping off to Roethlisberger, Wilson, Breeze, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, and Roethlisberger was leading the bunch last year with 320 points. Rodgers had 374. So not only are you getting the certainty of a top tier quarterback, there's a 50 points worth of separation. So that's a solid 4 points a game, give or take, and that's money in the bank because there's a whole glob of equivalent QBs that are in the next rung, and if you want to make the Gronk argument, you can almost make the same argument at quarterback because it's just a very small upper tier.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. And I will segue into my number 4,
Go for it.
who is Aaron Rodgers.
All right.
Aaron Rodgers, I echo exactly what Mark just said, and the number 1 fantasy scorer overall has got to go in the top of the first round. And he was nursing injuries for some of this season. He's unbelievable.
He's pretty great.
He's amazing.
Yes.
He is amazing.
Yes. So number 4, Aaron Rodgers.
All right. Seth?
My number 4, nothing special, but I mean, kind of like what Max said. Whenever you lead, he led on all fantasy, but whenever you lead in running backs and you have almost a historic year as far as straight games of over 100 yards, you definitely deserve your accolades. If there wasn't so much, I don't know, mystery of where he's going to be, what team he's going to play for, I'd probably have him a little bit higher, but that's DeMarco Murray. So, dude's a beast. We all talked about him already.
Fair. I'll go with my number 4.
Oh boy.
Probably a little lower than most of you guys would think that I would rank this guy.
Nick Foles.
I know where this is going.
Nick Foles.
No, but
Riley
I'm actually going to go Marco Mariota. No.
Mariota.
No. Anyway, the only reason he is this low on my board is because there's sort of, if you're following along with the team, some internal conflict about just how happy he is with the system, the head coach and everything. So, and he obviously had what would be considered a down year with the introduction of Darren Sproles into the system. But I think, get one off season.
What?
Huh?
No, go ahead.
I'm not.
I was just realizing who you picked.
I'm
I'm
not
so
saying
confused here.
no, but he had what was considered a down year, I guess. But I think he's due for a bounce back and deserves to be potentially higher. But
Potentially higher?
LaShawn McCoy at number 4. So.
Good Lord.
Jesus.
Making a mockery of this podcast.
Real
They got
life?
mockery with the mock draft.
No,
Yeah.
you gotta.
This is insane.
If you
He had a down year, so I'm going to rank him higher than when I had him last year.
So ridiculous.
All right, before you defend yourself, here are some of his point totals from various games I cherry picked over the year. 2, 1, 6, 9, 7, 9, 3, 6. That's a lot of games.
I know it is.
Rob, we're talking about fantasy football here. I don't know what you.
I know
what
we
you
are,
think
but
about
we
like.
remember
This isn't the
how
number 4
big of an
fantasy score on the
fan
Eagles.
you are. This is not the Eagles fan talk show. This
I
is
know.
fantasy football, okay?
Hey, we all get.
Hey, zip it. Oh, I'm about to mute both of you.
But
Please do
Sproles had a better season.
Here.
I know he did. I know
I'll defend Rob. Matthew Berry had McCoy like 6, I think. So it's not like outlandish.
No, he's still LaShawn McCoy. He's still one of the shiftiest running backs in the game. He still can put up yards.
I mean, when we get to next season, we'll be talking about 2 years ago. LaShawn McCoy was the shiftiest running back in the league. Like, think about that.
He still is. You say he's not a
still
shifty
is.
running back.
He wasn't this season. He's not. He isn't still is until he proves that he still is.
Well, he has a year to do it, and I think if it would be a bounce back year, would it not?
So you had 80. Where'd you have Eddie Lacy at?
5, right behind him.
5, right behind him. Who was your lowest running back on that on your list?
C.J. Anderson, 12.
Okay, so you're saying I'm trying to think of people I would choose over. I mean, because you have him at what, number 4 or number 3? Number 3.
4.
4. Number 4.
You wouldn't take Murray over McCoy? This is.
Yeah.
I can't.
That's insane.
That's where the fan in me comes out. I can't pick a Cowboy over an Eagle. I know that.
Lacy.
Defend your pick. I mean, it could work out that way. It's just.
It's not dumb. I mean.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to write him off completely, but you're talking about the number.
Talking about writing
4.
off LaShawn McCoy. I'm sorry. I can't.
No, we're taking it in the second round.
Number 4 overall.
Yeah.
Well, I'm writing him off. He burned me last year. I don't draft guys that burn me.
Yes.
He didn't burn me.
That's my rule. Yeah.
That's fair. So that's why. That's all.
I'm honestly thinking about taking Jeremy Hill. I bet Jeremy Hill has a better year than LaShawn McCoy next year.
Put it on the board.
Put it on the board?
No,
right
not
here,
me.
right now.
Not me.
Let's do it, Max. You agreed. I have
No,
We do
I
have
agree
tape of
with
it.
you.
All right,
Okay.
we'll do this off camera, but
All right.
let's move on. I'm tired of the slander here.
McCoy.
Am I the only person
Number
left in the
3.
4th round?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Eddie Lacy.
Hey.
I think he has potential he hasn't tapped into yet. I get stuck with him no matter what. Why fight it? Like, I'll end up with him, and I can't do anything about it. So I'm just gonna embrace it.
Yeah.
I think he was still pretty decent last year for like a disappointing year. He justified a first-round grade, and I feel like there's nowhere to go but up. It's stake running backs are hard to find. He'll get a lot of carries, and it seems like, except for like asthma and stuff like that, he can take a beating, and that's good. And he's young. Why not?
All right. So that's it for 4. On to 3.
3.
Top
Antonio
3.
Brown.
Ooh.
Antonio Brown, number 1 wide receiver, and like I said, 1,700 yards, 13 touchdowns, a picture of reliability, not injury prone. Like we said, the game streak with 5 or more catches, he's a stud.
Yep.
It's fair.
You're obviously the highest on the AB. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yes.
All right.
Unless
Max,
you're hiding something.
just curious, how many running backs do you have in your top 12?
1,
Didn't seem like too much.
2, 3, 4. 4.
Interesting.
Wow. That's low, in my opinion.
I'm probably gonna get a little bit of grief for this, but and I had him
Not
on my
as much
team.
as me with LaShawn McCoy at number 4.
No, No, definitely not. And I had him on my team, and he obviously was the anchor this year, so I kind of hate putting him down low. Just I don't have a lot of faith in him. I didn't have a lot of faith in him in last year. In fact, these two can attest. We were at Buffalo Wild Wings. Name drop right there. There we go. Buffalo Wild Wings. Proud supporter.
They're not
of the show.
paying. They're not paying.
we were at a wing establishment, and somebody who shall remain nameless took Monty Ball ahead of me, forcing me to pick Le'Veon Bell instead. And I was irate. I was swearing up and down at this particular infantile friend of ours. So, yeah. So just by luck, I ended up getting him. But he's a monster workhorse. He could single-handedly win you a game. That's why I love Le'Veon Bell.
You undersold him.
You did.
I did.
Now,
I feel
wait,
bad
what-
about it.
While I want to defend myself real quick about with why I don't have many running backs in my picture of the first round is because running back is the number one busted position when it comes to busts, fantasy busts. Running
Receivers
back
bust a lot too.
always.
That's just
always
because
bust.
they're more
And-
selected.
No, and it's the surprise running backs that come out of nowhere in like the third and fourth round that you get in the third or fourth round, or guys that you've never even heard of explode towards the second half of the season.
Max,
The-
I will say that I
Max.
went a completely different concept with how I threw quarterbacks in there, but that's the reason why last year I went sort of ass backwards with my top 10 was that you don't know with running back. This year,
Right.
obviously, I'm sitting here with 10 of them in my top 12, but that's only because
The expectation is high. I mean, it's the
It is.
first round pick, so that's why more of
It
them bust.
it is.
'Cause
And
Right.
there's
Look at all this expectation you guys are putting on these running backs.
yeah.
If
my
you
stand.
put 7 wide receivers on, you're going to have the same expectation, and they're equally going to bust.
No, they rarely bust. You watch, and you can also check the stats.
But
Megatron was the only wide receiver last year, and he was the 16th overall best wide receiver. So I mean, that's like a huge bust.
But I mean, we're not talking. I mean, you're getting into like injury bust or just like suck bust. Like Doug Martin was not injured; he just sucks.
Suck bust. Don't want to get technical on you, but suck bust or injure bust. All right.
All right.
this is getting weird.
All right, so where are we? Still have number 3s?
Yeah.
Go.
All right, I'll go. DeMarco Murray. And I don't like this because he was on the no-fly list for a while because he burned me a while ago back when he was injury-prone. And then all of a sudden, like he's one of those guys, he burned me early. I got ticked off. And I missed his whole career because I was just too blinded by rage to ever draft him again. And now I'm going to pay full freight for him and get burned by picking him third. I just think the season is too good to ignore. It's worth the risk. And I know like all the red flags are there, but I want to take a chance.
Yeah.
It's fair.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna make some people mad again.
Darren Sproles.
No, it's not.
Can't wait.
He's not. He's not there.
Can you draft Chip Kelly?
Ha-ha, Clinton Dix.
God, that's terrible. I don't know why I subject myself to this.
Chip Kelly.
My number 3 overall is a guy that should have been handed the ball at the half-yard line
Ooh.
a week ago.
Ooh.
I went Marshawn up high at number 3.
That's not as bad as Sean McCoy.
Whatever, that's fine. Whatever, but whatever. Say what you will. I'll defend my picks. What's up? No, but I have him. I have him there. I know there's sort of question marks around whether he stays in Seattle. I think obviously Wilson's going to get paid. If they're going to pay anyone else, it's going to be Marshawn Lynch. The guy, I mean, just runs with an attitude and like unlike anyone else in the league. And I don't care how old he is or that he's about to turn that haunted 3-0 this year. When you run with that kind of attitude and just the power in which he runs and the style, I don't know. There's just so much to like about him that I just see him continuing to bowl over defenders and put up points.
Fair enough. I will say I feel bad like we're giving you so much grief, Rob, but we gave you equal amount of grief last year, and you
I know.
reacted similar. You reacted similar, and now you yourself is like, yeah, I was a dumbass last year. I had like 12 quarterbacks in the first.
I know. I know.
So I mean, hey, if we're here from a year now, and you're looking back and you're like, yeah, I was pretty stupid to include Sean McCoy. Just remember.
I know. I'm setting myself up for it. So I think we that does it for threes.
Does it
on
for
to our top two.
Top two. Ooh.
I'm just gonna say Jam Chaz.
Okay.
Got him right here.
That's number 2 for this guy.
Agree.
Who doesn't have Jamal Charles second? Let's do it that way.
Anyone?
Okay.
Max.
This guy.
Because
This
he's
guy.
number 1 for Max. Not to ruin anything.
No, he's not.
Wow. Didn't make Max's board.
Not on the board.
Wow.
Jam test.
Not feeling him. Second round, sure. He's
they're
right. He's a
allergic.
fringe. He's a fringe guy.
All right, I'm not
They're-
hopping in there for Jamal Charles.
All right, defend him.
First of all, he won me a title, so he's back on my good graces. He's like a trendy, obviously, you know, like that he's the career leader in like yards per carry at 5.5. He's still sitting at 5. He was at 5 last year. That's pretty good. He's like the trendy Hall of Fame guy. Like people always say, I'm not too sure that Jamal Charles isn't a Hall of Famer. That kind of stuff. He's like the Adrian Beltre of the NFL, where everyone just likes to like sound cool and say he's a Hall of Famer. He is a Hall of Famer, and I trust him as long as he stays healthy. It's a little risky, but
Let me give you a football reason why he's going to be a dominant running back.
okay, fine. Mine were good.
All right, yeah.
No, tell me who else. I doubt it's going to happen again. But if you look at where the touchdown production was last year, 0 touchdowns, I believe it ended up finishing the season coming from
not
wide
one.
receivers. So I don't know where else they're going to get touchdowns if Alex Smith isn't going to throw the ball to wide receivers near the end zone. So they're just going to keep dishing it to guys their backfield. And I'm fine with that. That's going to put up fantasy points. So you want touchdowns. You want your running back to get handed the ball at the 1 yard line with the championship or whatever on the line, the game on the line. So.
Yeah, it does make you. It does make you a little worried. I mean, I have him at number 2. Obviously, I love his talent. I think he's one of the best running backs as far as elusiveness, speed, and power. Blocking. He's a really great back, all around really great. And the only reason I have Bell lower than him is because he has a proven track record. But it does make you nervous that they are going to get one-dimensional. With the Steelers, you never have to worry about them getting one-dimensional. They have a fantastic wide receiver group, despite the host of this show thinking otherwise. So they're never going to just rely on the run game. But with Kansas City, I don't know if you guys know this. I'm from the medical community. So there's an actual medical condition where the wide receivers in Kansas City are actually all allergic to touchdowns. That's why they weren't allowed to get any, because they were allergic. So
Gotcha. All right.
If
Yeah.
anything,
What's that condition called? Seth?
it's called let me think about
latest.
it.
I would actually argue, isn't it? Like they can't get much worse. They have to get better, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Is Alex Smith? They sold on Alex Smith like him?
Yes.
Really?
I like
him?
sort of. No, you're right.
Him?
Oh, man.
All right, Max, make your.
Max, who do you have at
ridiculous
number 2? If it's not
My number 2 overall pick,
Oh boy.
Sean McCoy.
Oh boy.
Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh my God.
So you
Now let me-
lied to our face saying
No.
that Brown was your number 1 wide receiver.
No, I didn't say. I didn't know that was. I didn't hear that question. I'm
I
sorry.
think he just.
Now let me drop some knowledge on you before I get some groans and eye rolls here. Let me drop some knowledge on you. 5th overall wide receiver with just 12 games. 5, almost half of those games, he had over 100 yards receiving. And there were only 3 of those games where he had under 100 yards and no touchdowns. Just 3. But being number 5 with 12 games is unbelievable for fantasy points.
Can I ask you a question? 'Cause this is something that it's a I don't want to call it a concern, but you get Victor Cruz coming back. What's that do to Beckham
He's
Jr.'s
gone.
production?
He's a free agent.
He's gone?
Yeah, he'll be gone.
Cruz?
Oh, Max. Poor innocent Max. I've been in your seat.
Foolish man.
I've been in your position. I've
Josh
seen
Gordon. You're talking about Josh Gordon.
a year ago. I once was like you, and then my soul was ripped out of me. Like, I don't believe in anything anymore, and it's because I have Josh Gordon second. Not that I don't think Beckham's gonna have a good year, because I have him in my first round too. But when you put that receiver second, and you put yourself out there like that, bearing your soul, it never works out. Something bad will happen to make you look like a fool, and then everyone will just remember that.
No.
They'll remember your failure.
This is his rookie season. It's only going to get better. He is a beast. He is
I
beast
agree.
mode.
We just can't have nice things, though. I feel like something bad's going to happen. Like, he's going to get suspended somehow, or he's going to get hurt.
Jeez.
Something's going to happen.
He's
Can
going
I
to break
read
his
you-
leg on the second play from scrimmage of the
He could.
season.
He could get hurt. Like,
Can I read you the teams that he... okay, Seattle, he had 13 points against. San Fran, he had 10 points against. Indy, who had a pretty good defense, he had 17. The teams that he had 30-plus, Philly, Washington, Tennessee, Jacksonville.
Yeah, there are more bad defenses
St.
out there than good
Louis.
defenses.
Listen to the teams you
Dallas.
said, Matt. Seth, listen to the teams you said. It's Philly, Washington, Dallas. Who does he play 6 times a year?
Fair enough. Fair
plus,
enough.
they get a third place schedule too, I think. So
Oh, gee.
Yeah, they do.
The thing is if you expect the New York Giants to be any better than they were last year, which they were terrible, they're not going to be in
They don't have to be better. They don't. I'm not. I feel
times.
like I'm defending this number 2 overall for Beckham, but I'm defending a guy that was on my roster is more what it's about.
Yeah.
The Giants don't have to be good. They weren't good last year, and still look what he did.
No, I'm saying them being better, it actually makes that pick worse. If they're a better team, they're not going to be down as much, and they're not going to have to throw. I mean, I remember watching several Giants games where they were down like 2 touchdowns, and it was just garbage time touchdown to ODB.
Now, the only question mark is something that none of you guys have mentioned, is that he was a rookie this year, so no teams really put their number one corners on him. So he could fall victim to the Keenan Allen syndrome. Once people start covering him, he sucks.
And let's be blunt, the Giants probably aren't going to be overly good next year. Like, at best,
Yeah,
they're
no,
going
they're
to
gonna be
go
bad.
9-7. Granted, they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I don't see them going higher than 7-7.
Whoa! Can we put that on the board?
No.
I will put that.
I will say this: if they finish 9-7, they will win the Super Bowl. If they get in the
All right. Fair enough. Well,
Mark, that was interesting. You said blunt. That's a nice segue into my number 1
shut
player
up.
for next
No,
year.
if that's your number 1 pick, I'm cutting you off. No.
All right, before we go into that, I'll announce mine. It's a little different. And
Okay,
let's
go.
go into that. I'm the number 1 overall pick, and this is a little controversial, so I expect some
Drum
shock
roll.
faces. I am taking, and also I was lying too. Antonio Brown wasn't my number 1 wide receiver either.
Mm.
I am taking Josh Gordon. Undeterred from last year, number 2.
Ah, jeez, you're making a mockery now of the
This
podcast.
is, no.
That's not a real pick. I hope.
No.
I
Okay.
hope I think so.
Real pick.
Oh, okay.
Real pick for Mark.
All right.
I think most of us have this. Le'Veon Bell.
You
Now,
undersold him.
I think you and Rob have him, not
Yeah,
me.
that's the case. That is the case. I do have him. He is my number 1 overall as well.
He's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He had a distraction. Basically, all they had to do is, if they didn't pick up Blunt to start the year, I think that, he has that kind of year all year, and we're not talking about DeMarco Murray as your rushing champ. I think Le'Veon Bell would have been your rushing champ, hands down. I mean, the guy, you just look what he did over the last month and a half of the season. It was just absurd.
LeGarrette Blount taught Le'Veon Bell all he knew, okay? You gotta remember, this is his 2nd year in the league. No one was talking about Le'Veon Bell last year. He was okay. It wasn't until LeGarrette Blount came in and showed him how to run. Put his head down and run.
Yeah,
That's
and
where Le'Veon Bell and get high. Yes.
Yeah.
He told them both of those things. And now you're all talking about it. You guys don't give LeGarrette Blount enough credit.
Le'Veon Bell, he is in the best shape to do great things next year because it was in the second half of this year that he really turned it on. After week 10, he had at least one touchdown in every week except 17, which they didn't really matter, so they didn't really care.
Well, he was hurt.
Yeah. He was
What?
Yeah.
In week 17?
Yeah,
In week 17?
Yeah, he had his knee messed up.
No,
Oh,
I think
okay.
he
Well, then that
didn't see.
Okay,
Yeah, it was
that-
that heading into the playoffs.
Okay, well that's right. Well, then that explains it. Well, hey, 10 and forward, he had a touchdown in each game. He's good. He's going to
He
be
had
great.
a lot
next
of
year.
receiving yards, 850 receiving yards. Like,
Is he your number one too, Max?
Yeah, he's my number one.
oh, he
Everyone's
is?
number one,
Yes.
Yep.
except
That's
none.
So you don't have LeGarrette Blount number one.
Or do I? No, I have Eddie Lacy. I think that.
Whoa!
Yeah, I think if he didn't have, he had a real slow start, but I think if he, I mean, he was like what, number 5th, 6th overall running back last year, and he had a horrible first half of the season or first 5 games. He was number 6 overall, so I think that he's found his way. I think that they're utilizing him a lot more. I mean, he finished the season with some really good numbers, 20, 22, 26, 23, 16. But yeah, I think he's gonna shock people, outperform everyone next year as long as he stays healthy. So.
All right. Well, that wraps out our top 12 for fantasy football.
There it is, boys.
We did it.
Cool.
Lots of mockery and
Oh boy.
hating and trash talking.
Odell
and-
Beckhett.
We did it. Oh man. So we'll see how it goes. You know, at least we didn't have half of a list be made up of quarterbacks or anything
Now
outlandish.
I gotta wish you had.
Yeah.
1 year too soon.
1 year too soon. Oh man. Well, that is, I guess, it. We went way long, but you know that's what happens when you run through essentially 4 rounds of fantasy drafts. With each of us giving a full round. So yeah, I have nothing else. I'm just fumbling
That's
for
it.
words here as we try to wrap up the show.
It was a good year, Cap.
See you next year.
This was it. This was it. Unless we have, some random junk we want to talk about during the off season, this is it for football. So thanks for watching us all year, and probably not really actually getting to the end. You can look at the lists underneath this video. So you're gonna save yourself an hour and a half of watching a YouTube video. But we appreciate the clicks. We appreciate the clicks anyway, and I guess we'll see you next year.
Yep. See.